Okay, if we could stand, if you're able, and join me in the opening prayer. We are welcomed into your presence this day by your gracious hospitality, O God. Grant that we lay aside our cares and anxieties to concentrate our thoughts on you alone. Open us to the teaching and guidance for living which we receive, that we will be strengthened to walk with you and follow wherever you lead us. Through Jesus Christ, your Son, our Savior. Amen. And if you could join us in the call to worship. Let us give thanks to God with our whole hearts. In God's sanctuary, let us proclaim God's love and faithfulness. Let us exalt God's holy name. And if you could take a moment and greet one another with a wave of peace. Where were you 200 years ago? I was going to ask the kids, similar thing, where were they? But I think our oldest that we right have is about 3, 4. And so they have no memories of what our church used to be. But I was going to talk to them about, we're in a building, and we call that the church, but what the church really is the people. And so today what we're going to do is sort of look at that. So our scripture is from Hebrews 12, 1 through 3. Therefore, since we are surrounded by so great a cloud of witnesses, let us also lay aside every weight and sin that clings so closely, and let us run with perseverance the race that is set before us. Looking to Jesus, the pioneer and perfecter of our faith, who for the sake of the joy that was set before him endured the cross, disregarding its shame, and has taken his seat at the right hand of the throne of God. Consider him who endured such hostility against himself from sinners, so that you may not grow weary or lose heart. So the question still is, where were you 200 years ago? Well, 200 years ago, I'm assuming there was a group in the town of Wattsburg that was starting to think about having a church. Because in 1827 is when they really got started. So in 3 years, we're looking at our 200th anniversary. So I grabbed a couple books, record books, out of the back of the church. And I'm going to read them all. No. But if you look at them over the years, the people that have been involved, I was just talking with Roger before the service, and the ones that went, because the Wattsburg Church for many years, about 100 over 100 years, was on Church Street. The building was on Church Street, and the Presbyterian Church was down the other end of the block. So there was a lot of flow from one congregation to the other for whatever reason. So if you look at some of the names way back in, I thought they always went to the Presbyterian Church. Well, at one time they might have gone to the Methodist Church. And it worked the other way, So there was a few exchange. And just to give you some short history, if you're not familiar with Wattsburg, this was put together back in 97. This part was written up by Ethel Kennedy. So she says Wattsburg as a community has its roots deep in American history. At the time of the Revolutionary War, there was Native Americans here, and that's about it. There was a fort in Fort LeBoeuf, Fort Presque Isle. I think those would be the two closest. So there were, people traveling through here, but there really wasn't any settlement called Wattsburg. The in 1795, which would be after the Revolutionary War, William Miles and his father-in-law, David Watts, came to Erie County as the first surveyors of the 10th Donation District. And the first clearing at Wattsburg was made by William Miles, who built a storehouse as a depot for supplies for the surrounding country. In 1798, the first road was opened up between Northeast and the lake. And so if you've ever gone through Colt Station, that big community up there, you know, that was one of the first crossroads. And it's funny because it really never developed. It was one of the first intersections, you know, in Erie County, and not a whole lot happened. I didn't research all the history, and you know, for example, there used to be a Presbyterian church up by Campers Hill. Maybe others in the congregation know the dates when that was built, but I think that was the first Presbyterian church in the county. Anybody know any better? But anyways, so in 1822, Mr. Miles got the county to build a bridge over the west branch of French Creek. And during the same year, he built a grist mill and laid out Wattsburg and named it after his father-in-law, David Watts. And she goes on to tell all the stores and mills and businesses that were in Wattsburg during the 1800s. It was a thriving town. There, you know, for example, there was a grist mill, a sawmill, a sash factory, a broom factory, shingle factory, tailor shop, 3 grocery stores, 4 general stores, 2 furniture stores, and so, you know, and so on. So and the borough was finally incorporated in 1833, and then. Well, Dad didn't live here then, but 1928 was a big fire. So a lot of the borough was destroyed in 1928. So when you look at some of the old pictures, there was what was called the Wattsburg Hotel, not in the same location where ours is. And that's where Grandpa Clute, Merle Clute, would have then had the tractor business starting in like 1940, around that time. So there, you know, and then Vosburg's had it as a machine shop for, any idea how many years, Darlene? Yeah, so for many years. But in 1831 was when the first Methodist church was built. And that's the building that now houses the museum down on Main Street. And then in 1861, a church was built on Church Street near the corner of South Street. Cost a total of $3,400. And the cost of the property was $30. Now that property was, or the building was condemned and torn down in 1971. And so this building was built in 71. I was in college during that time, and I was also worked at the college for a time. So when I saw this in January, when the shell was up, and when I didn't really get to see it again until like August of 71. So you guys were already moved in and worshiping by the time I got to see it. And then later on, we realized we needed to add on again and added the fellowship hall that we have now. But as far as the organization, you know, as far as the church started in 1827, and Elder Knapp came here as a missionary in 1820. So in 1850s, we were a circuit with 7 other congregations. So it used to be when the Methodist Church got started, they would have these circuits. Guys would ride their horses from one, so they might make it to a couple churches on a Sunday. So that meant if he had 7 churches, that he didn't get here every Sunday. So it would be, you know, one of the lay persons leading the worship service on those other weeks. And that took place, you know, throughout the Methodist Church for a long time. And then they finally got so that, you know, there was a lot of changes, and then you'd share a pastor with maybe 2 or 3 churches. We're still in that situation. But in 1959, it was the first time that we had a full-time pastor. And so there was, some of the other things that, there was a parsonage was provided at Wattsburg that was on the corner of Church and South Street. And it says from the old records that the report that in 1852 that there's still $109 yet due, and the trustees are personally responsible. So some of the names on some of those would be Robinson, and then some of the others, Duncombe, and Duncombe. There were 3 Duncombe. There were trustees, and so whatever happened to that family, I have no idea. And then church sheds were built in 1872 at a cost of $24 each. And I think, Roger, you might be able to help me on this. Those were still there in the 60s? The sheds alongside the church? I remember they were torn down sometime, but so even the fellowship hall was added on at one time on the old church, and we had a pastor that was remembered as the one who tapped all the maple trees around the parsonage. That was the Reverend Lister, and he boiled the sap in a large pan outside. We had one pastor, Reverend Burnham, that was here for 4 years, and he retired and then became postmaster at the post office for many years. We had one that left the Methodist Church and then became active at the Erie City Mission. So I never knew that we had a connection that way with the Erie City Mission. Yeah. So that's some of the progression of the church buildings. But the group has changed, over the years. A lot of families are different. Roger and Pat would be the longest members. Does that sound about right? Not the oldest. So Dad would be the oldest member. Yeah. But different ones here in the community, have come from different places, have come from different communities. Like where Cody and his family live, used to be the school at Little Hope. And so if you're my age or older, you probably went to a 1 or 2 room schoolhouse like the Lowville one or the one in Wattsburg or the one at Phillipsville. So some of us, come from a lot of different communities and different churches. But we are a cloud of witnesses. We are the group that the younger ones are going to say, okay, they walked by faith. Because we just read the first few verses of the 12th chapter. The 11th chapter talks about those who walked by faith. Talks about Cain and Abel. Talks about Abraham, Moses, and goes on through, the Old Testament history of all those that walked by faith. So each verse sort of starts by faith that they did this. And by faith, one time or another, you became part of this congregation. And by faith, for the last couple hundred years, been a lot of people that come through the rolls. The one book shows if they left the church, the reason that they left. Sometimes it was just said they transferred, but a lot of times, so they either died or transferred, but a lot of people, so the church has changed. Well, the church is going to keep changing, whether we like it or not. About a week ago in the mail, I received the booklet for conference that shows all the churches that are going to disaffiliate. So within the Western Pennsylvania Conference, there are 300 churches that are choosing to leave the United Methodist Church. Probably most of them will become part of the Global Methodist Church, which will still have a connection in certain ways. But that's more than a third. So it's going to change our churches in a lot of ways. Our district superintendent, Dennis, is probably will serve one more year. I mean, actually, he could have retired this year, but just with all the things going on, I think he's going to serve probably one more year. But so our district will go from being the Erie district to Erie and Kane, and so he's going to, whoever's the superintendent, is going to cover a lot of territory. So we're going from, well, we used to be 11, then we went to 10. And now we're going to go to 5, and so they're going to cover a lot of area, but so I mean that's a change that's taking place. But we as a church, I think if we look back at all the ones who have made steps of faith over the years are going to continue to make steps of faith. It's going to vary for each one of us, and so but I look at what our church has done and what we can do, and I think we have a lot to be proud of. We're just the Kids Alive program is a good example that we've done a great outreach to the kids in the community. The school bags is something that a lot of us just see the monetary thing, but others who have handed out those bags over the last couple of years can see the reaction from the kids when they get those. But that it's outreach in the community that we will continue wherever we go. I did, it's an uncertain time for our churches. We're not alone. There's a lot of them that are similar boat as we are. Talking with Roger this morning, and just the idea that there's probably a lot of churches that don't feel they can afford to leave. And so what's going to happen down the road with those churches is up in the air. But there's we've talked about this before. There's going to be like 3 groups, however you want to call it, in the church. There'll be the traditional, the Orthodox, and then there'll be the centrist group, and then there'll be the progressive group. And the way the church is talking, the leadership is talking right now, they're going to do everything they can to maintain. So if you're a traditional church, you will not get a progressive pastor. And so that's so that's where we're headed. But just to go back to the Hebrews, since we are surrounded by such a great cloud of witnesses, let us throw off everything that hinders and the sin that so easily entangles, and let us run with perseverance the race marked out for us. As a lot of us don't run anymore. Maybe it's walking with perseverance, but we do have a course marked out for us, and we do have an outreach in the community, and we can keep caring for each other and for our community. But we need to look to Jesus, consider him, and so that we can grow weary and lose heart. So